Thank you all for coming today. We're going to get started here with just a couple words from our Executive Director, also from the Mexican Consul General, Claudia Velasco, and also from Midlands Tech. So we'll get started with that right now. Welcome back to the consul.
I am Dr. Lawrence Acosta. I am the Executive Director of the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs. Just to give you a little background about the Commission. In 1993, the Commission was established to study the cause and effects of socioeconomic deprivation in African American communities. In 2003, it was expanded to study Hispanic Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans. Those are the 4 major program areas that we advocate for at the Commission for Minority Affairs. Alex, who is my coordinator for Hispanic Latino Affairs, and Yvonne Segura, who is my multicultural director. These are the people who help put these kinds of educational forums together. Yesterday, I spoke with the Sisters of Charity's forum on civic engagement. And one of the things that I focused on was the Hispanic community, because the Hispanic community is the fastest growing community in this country and can no longer be taken advantage of or looked down on because they have a voice, and the voice needs to be heard, loud and clear. So therefore, our job at the Commission is to make sure that you have that voice. We help you to build that voice. We need representation from the Hispanic community on school boards. We need you on town council. We need you in the State House. We need that voice because no one knows your concerns better than someone who's like you. And that's what we do at the Commission. We try to make sure that the voices that have oftentimes been pushed under the rug can now be heard. That's why you see Alex going around. This is our first here at Midlands Tech. I think he's done several forums like this at other campuses. We need to hear from you. We need you to be that voice in the community. You give us the information, we help put you out there so that you can advocate for yourself. You don't understand the power that you have. Right now, we're going through an election process. How many Hispanic folks are running for office?
Just one. Just one.
That you know of. Very few, if any. I can't be a city council person representing the Hispanic community unless I know what you need, unless I am a part of your community, unless I go into your communities, meet with all of your families, talk about the issues that you face. But you always need to elect your own. It's important. Get involved with the process. We need you to be involved. We need you to hold public offices. We need you raising cane at school boards for bilingual teachers in the classroom. We need you to talk about housing issues, healthcare issues, or anything that's causing conflict or depriving you of the things that we all share and we all need. So I hope that during this forum, this is the first of many, because we are here, the Commission is here to help you build that loud voice, to teach you how to advocate for the things that you need for your children and for your families, to educate you on the resources that are available through the state of South Carolina. It's there, but a lot of people don't know what the state has to offer. So it's our place as an agency to direct you to the resources that are available to you and to help you get to that point where you have a voice that's so loud no one will ever take advantage or take you for granted ever again. Around the world, around the United States, the census numbers show that the Hispanic population is the fastest growing population in this country. That says a lot. Make it work. Don't shy away from it. I don't have a fear in my body. I try not to. Because if you're going to force change, you can't be silent. And change is going to have to come. And I think you all know that. Change has to come. It's impossible for us not to go through changes. But you need to control what that change is going to look like. That change means that you are going to take more leadership roles in your communities. That change means that you are going to make those who have been elected to represent you accountable for you. Like I told them yesterday on that meeting, a vote is a very powerful tool. It's the most powerful tool an individual has. If you don't use that tool, somebody else is going to make that decision for you. And you don't need for anyone to make that decision for you. You are people. You want folks to respect you as people. You want folks to know that, yes, I am somebody. I am a part of this state. I am a part of this country, and I deserve the same respect as everybody else. So you can count on the commission to help lead the way. It may get a little bit sticky at times, but guess what? Change doesn't come without pain. It just doesn't happen. So it's going to mean going up against folks who don't believe in what you are doing in your communities. It's going to mean going up against a school board, demanding that you have more bilingual teachers in the classroom and stop labeling children just because of their language. And do not, whatever you do, do not take away your children's language just to fit in. Do not make them learn English and forget about their language, their mother language. Because that's who you are. That's what identifies you. Make sure your children know Spanish and English. Don't make them speak just English and they do away with their mother language. Do not do that. I say it in front of all of my groups. It doesn't matter. Your mother language is a part of your heritage, and you are the only ones who can preserve your heritage. So whatever you do, don't let schools con you into thinking that your child should only speak English. Hold on to your heritage. Teach your children the language. Because let me tell you something. Their worth excels when they're bilingual. As they grow and come out of school, more and more organizations, government, private sector are looking for bilingual people. Don't rob that. Don't take that away from them. Make sure they know and understand the importance of holding on to their mother language. We're going to help you. That's why the commission does not put out any information unless it's in both Spanish and English. And that's required from my agency. That's something that I have put into place when I came here 5 years ago. I don't want to see any documents going out that's not in both languages. We've even had some things translated from our Asian community. Language is who you are. So preserve it. Hold on to it. We're here to help you. We're here to build coalitions. We're here to help you network. We are here to make sure that as you grow in numbers, your voices grow in volume. And you're going to make people pay attention. That's what we do. That's what we help you to do. Know that you can call on me anytime. Alex is real good at putting on these forums, and he usually has a room full of people. Yvonne, he's over my multicultural, because Yvonne's over everybody, Hispanic, Asian, African Americans, Native Americans, because he has a unique skill of outreach across cultural lines. And that's what we have to do at the commission. We have to work across cultural lines. It's not about race at the commission. It's about culture. Because culture defines who you are. Your beliefs, your traditions. We don't want you to lose those things. We want you to take all of that and make it work for you as a people. And we're here to help you do that. Next year, when the election cycle comes along, I expect to see some more Hispanic folks running for school board and all these other things. It is important for you to do that. And we can connect you to the people who can help shape your platform, shape your messaging. But don't sit on the sideline. When you sit on the sideline, that means you're going to accept whatever people give you or throw at you. Don't do it. Stand up. If not for yourself, stand up for your children. It's all about your children now. Not the adults in the room, but their future. What do you want their future to look like? You have to decide that and shape your message around that. Because they're the ones who will be going through the challenges in the future. They're the ones who will really make up the big numbers that you're seeing, the growth. I'm Dolores DaCosta, Executive Director of the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs. If you need me, call me. Thank you.
Y'all heard what we need to do, right? Pónganse las pilas. Copy.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the South Carolina Commission on Minor Affairs for having this important event. And Ms. Acosta, congratulations for your amazing speech. You are always right. And of course, we have to push everyone and to be very proudful of who we are and speak Spanish, speak Portuguese. Please read this amazing information that is in the brochure. I also want to thank Midland Technical College for hosting this important conference, and special thanks to Ivan Segura for always supporting the education of Hispanic students, their identity, and our heritage. Importance of Hispanic Heritage Month is to link education, but of course we can go beyond. We need to bridge buildings of understanding, to be more inclusive, and of course to go out of our community. That Dr. Costa said, we are growing very fast, and we need to do more activities to show who and where we are. And quiero agradecer también a todos los que estamos aquí, que hablamos español, de que seamos y que continuemos nuestras tradiciones. No solamente ya concluyó el mes de la herencia hispana, pero sabemos que tenemos mucho que hacer, y por supuesto que estoy de acuerdo con la doctora Costa de que tenemos que estar mejor y más representados en todo el estado de Carolina del Sur y en todo Estados Unidos. Muchas gracias y que tengan mucho éxito, y el consulado siempre está para servirles. Thank you so much.
And now we just have some words from Midlands Tech.
Good morning. Good morning. I will not be before you long. My name is Rose Heath. I'm a program manager here at Midlands Tech, and I have one job. It's just to welcome you. So welcome to Midlands Tech Campus. We are definitely committed to serving all citizens of Midlands, your community, my community, and not only to provide them with educational opportunities and skills and opportunity and educational and employment opportunities, but also to have you come aboard to transfer your knowledge and give back to the students. So welcome again. Thank you so much for being here at Midlands Tech, and we hope that you have a great day.
Hello everybody, I'm Ivan Segura. I had prepared a speech, but then after Dr. Lacosta, I'm just going to do away with it. But there was some data in my speech that I still want to share with you. And I know you all have some of our research briefs on your folder. Please also know all of this is available on our website. We just published over 200 pages statistical profile on minority communities in South Carolina. So you want to learn more, you need data to support what you do, please reach out to us because this is what we do. But according to our data, there are over 375,000 Latinos in South Carolina, which represents 7% of the population. Our community has grown over 350% since 2000. Our entrepreneurial spirit is undeniable. There are 34,971 Latino businesses in the state. And Latinos in South Carolina have an income of $6.67 billion in aggregate income. Now, very good numbers, and this is something I just learned last week from our research department. From school year 2022 to 2023, which is 1 year, the total number of students in our school system increased by 7,600 children. 86% of those are Latinos. That is, out of the 7,000 new children in school using 1 year to the next, 86,000 of them are Latinos. We knew education is important. That's why we chose our keynote speaker for today, that's Mr. Frank Rodriguez, because we know it's important. But something that is also important is that if you know the numbers, you also need to know the names. This was designed from the very beginning as a networking session. We know how important it is for our Latino community to know each other, to form that bond, to be able to say, hey, beyond the name, there is a person working in there. That's why it's structured in a way that we're going to have a panel. We're going to give you a few minutes to talk to each other. Please do. Extroverts, please help the introverts to talk to you. Because in the end, what we want to do is if we're working together, I know I met with Fredo Solis before. I see him on Zoom several times. I don't presentation for the VA system. But today, finally, was very happy to say, hey, you are with Fredo. And I know a lot of people in this room, I know personally. And that's the best way to work with your community. It's not when you have a name or an email. It's somebody that you work before, that you understand better. So please, please take the opportunity to talk to each other. And I'm going to bring Alex because he's going to introduce our panel. But again, remember that if you made the travel to the school, if you got lost finding the space, since you're here, make sure to talk to each other and get to form that network. That is going to help our Hispanic community.
South Carolina workforce development efforts, case management for immigrant children, and managing pro bono legal services for asylum seekers in detention centers in South Carolina and in North Carolina. Gongoro now oversees the state's revenue and promotion for Northside Media, a Hispanic and family-owned Spanish language media company. She also co-founded Spanglish Consulting with attorney Nina Cano to support clients with needs at the intersection of language access, bilingual marketing, communications, and community engagement. She now lives in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina with her 2 children. So I'd like to start our panel today. Vanessa, let me get your microphone set up.
Would assume I can speak loud. Wait, that's how you start. Thank you, Alex. What are you thinking? Yeah, it's working great. Well, thank you so much. A little awkward sitting, but it's such an honor to be here with the South Carolina Commission on Minority Affairs. A special shout out in class to Ivan Segura, please, and to Alex. Thank you for putting this together. As we know it, it's the first Hispanic Latino Summit in the state. I know so many of us have gathered in informal circles and smaller spaces, but to have the first summit, I think, is something notable, that effort's to be commended, and we thank you for all the efforts, not just in event planning, but in all the things that go on behind the scenes, right? And what an honor it is to be here moderating for powerful Latinas. I could not be more happy to be here this morning. So let's start with Judge, Your Honor, Michelle Patrao-Forsyth. Did I say that? Yeah, okay, great. So Judge Michelle Patrao-Forsyth is a first-generation American fluent in Spanish and Portuguese and also studied French. She graduated from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County with a BA in Political Science, minoring in International Affairs. She attended the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico. Judge Forsyth worked at the White House and the United States Senate. She worked for the Department of Defense, assigned to Fort Meade. She graduated from the University of South Carolina School of Law. Judge Forsyth was Associate Attorney at Query, Souderman, Glisterman, and Price. She tried numerous cases in the family court, the Court of Common Pleas, the Court of General Sessions, the United States District Court, and argued before the Fourth Circuit of the United States Court of Appeals. After 10 years, George Forsyth left the law firm of Query, Souder, Forsyth upon her election to the South Carolina Family Court. Among other associations, Judge Forsyth is a member of the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges, the South Carolina Family Court Bench Bar Committee, the South Carolina Interstate Commission for Juveniles, and the James L. Pettigrew Inn of Court. Judge Forsyth is a South Carolina Liberty Fellow as well. Wow. Let's get to you. Wonderful, Sarai Melendez. Sarai is an inspirational and tenacious leader who has navigated a remarkable journey to become the first Latina councilwoman in her city. Born with Mexican heritage, Sarai's upbringing in a rural small town instilled in her the values of persistence, commitment, and hard work from a young age. She faced numerous challenges as a young mother, which compelled her to balance motherhood, work, and her education. Her determination led her to complete her associate's degree through night and Saturday classes. Sarai's grit and dedication allowed her to transfer to Anderson University to pursue her bachelor's degree. In 2019, she made history by capturing the heart of her city and becoming its first Latina councilwoman. Sarai's passion for her community, combined with her various board memberships and educational achievements, exemplifies her commitment to a fair and more equitable South Carolina. Her journey is a testament to the impact an individual can make with vision, community support, and unyielding perseverance. Thank you. Melanie, it's nice to see you again. Melanie Delgado will share her experiences at this year's first ever South Carolina Commission's Hispanic Summit. As a young Latina advocate, Melanie has made it known that her Latinidad is essential in the classroom, workplace, and community spaces. Go first, Jen, go. After graduating at 19 years old with her bachelor's degree in political science with a concentration in law and legal studies from the Citadel, she knew she wanted to pursue a legal profession, most notably in public service. With this interest in public service, Melanie is grateful for her communities everywhere that continuously support her through all her efforts, and she is honored to share her narrative with us today. Thank you so much. And last but not least, hello, Chief Deputy Maria Ituria. Get it right, everybody. Ituria. Okay. A new promotion has made Deputy Chief Maria Ituria the highest-ranking Hispanic officer in the history of Richland County Sheriff's Ituria will serve as Deputy Chief of the Department's Professional Development Division. She's born in Mexico, raised in LA. Ituria joined the department in 2023 after serving more than 7 years in the U.S. Army. Thank you for your service. After rising through the ranks, she is now the highest-ranking Hispanic individual in the history of the department. Ituria initially served the Sheriff's Department as a reserve deputy before joining full-time as a uniform patrol deputy, and during her 19-plus years with the department, has served in many different capacities. After leaving patrol, she was promoted to investigator and later earned the ranks of sergeant and lieutenant in the Criminal Investigations Division. There, she supervised the Victim Services Unit. In 2018, Ituria was promoted to captain of Richland County Sheriff Department's Public Affairs Department. I'm not lost in my notes. And here we go, yes. Which includes public affairs, CIT, training division, recruiting, and hiring. Thank you so much, all of you for your And so the commission has carefully crafted a few questions, and the theme here is personal journey, so the past, the current landscape in the present, and advancing Hispanic representation in the future. And with that, I think I'll start all the way to my right, with Chief Deputy. Chief Deputy, can you give us a little bit of insight here into your past? Won't get too deep here. Why don't you share a little bit about your journey serving in the U.S. Army to becoming the highest ranking Hispanic officer in Richland County Sheriff's Department?
Sure. So thank you first for having me. I think this is a fantastic platform to be here speaking and certainly representing representing the Hispanic community. So I will tell you that it's been a long journey. I think it has been a very fulfilling one. And I think one of the biggest challenges, as we were talking, is getting over the fear. Really, that's what we're talking about, is getting over the fear of the unknown. I was born in Mexico. I grew up in LA, and I left home when I was 17. And I left home for a better future. And at that time, the military was all there was. My parents couldn't provide anything. And so the military is what gave me the opportunity. And so I will tell you that I am a huge fan of this country. This country has given me every opportunity to excel and advance. And it can give anybody an opportunity. If it can give me that opportunity, anybody can do it. As far as the department, great leadership, great leadership. If you are from the Midlands, you know Sheriff Locke, and he, certainly promotes based on production, based on what you bring to the community, based on what you do, not based on who you are. And I think because of that, and working for great leadership and working in an environment that allows you to grow, I had the exact same opportunities that every other officer out there has. I had to compete with the exact same, competition and structure that everybody else had to do. I had to go through the exact same training that they had to do. And I think it just shows that everybody can do it. I am in this field. It's also very difficult to be a female, not just Hispanic. And so we still have a lot of work to do in that field. And I think platforms like this that give people the opportunity to see people that look like themselves. Who was the first speaker that came up, Ms. Acosta, that says putting people in front of you that have done it, putting people in front of you that look like you. It is super important to put people out here in the community that look like you. And when you're talking about the criminal justice system, I think it is absolutely important. So, but I'm just here to tell you, you can do it if you can get over that fear. If you can get over everything else, you can do it. The only thing that holds us back is that fear, the fear of failure.
Thank you so much. Yes, I didn't pass her Dr. Absolutely, the themes of representation, right? We see that so much, even in pop culture. I'm remembering, I'm 42, right? But I have a 9-year-old daughter who just feels comfortable thinking about herself and her future in different spaces because she now sees it on TV. So just representation continues to be such an important factor for all of us. So Melanie, from South Carolina, bachelor's degree in political science, and then you ended up at the White House. Tell us, talking about fear, did you feel any fear? And how has being Latina shaped your educational and career path thus far within that context?
I absolutely, one, I want to thank everyone here, thank Vanessa, everybody. I'm excited to talk today. Yes, there was fear, imposter syndrome. I know some of us have felt that in this room. I couldn't have done it without, obviously, family and the Career Center at the Citadel. They always tend to support me in anything I do. So I was born and raised in New York, and then I was raised in North Carolina, then Florida, and then now South Carolina. When I moved from Florida to South Carolina, it was a drastic change. And I had to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so from there, I obviously took advantage of all the opportunities at my high school, my college. And so when I was in high school, I did my associate's degree with my high school diploma, and I transferred to the Citadel as an evening undergraduate student. And from there, I got the opportunity to intern in Congress with a South Carolina congressman. And then from there, I used those skills to apply to the White House as an intern for the bipartisan infrastructure law sector. But I would say yes, there was a lot of fear, and I'm just glad that I have a community, I have my family, and I have people here just constantly telling me to keep going, that they need people like me in these spaces. And it's incredible how many students were there that looked like me. I was like, oh my gosh, you're Guatemalan, oh my gosh, you're Colombian. It was just an amazing opportunity to be there. But yes, thank you.
And just to pull in the room, this term imposter syndrome, how many of us have felt that before? You can, yeah. Just a few, not too many in the audience. I mean, you guys are like superheroes. Let's know how it goes. And so that support, that was important for you to walk in a room, again, representation, and see that, okay, you're not the first in the room, right? Super, okay, key, awesome. Sarai, hello. Let's dig in, Sarai, let's dig in. Voice style, right? So you've become the first Latina city councilwoman in your city, and so you come in with your full self. You're brilliant and your skill set. And so how does your heritage and your past lived experience come in with you? How do you bring that to the table?
Yeah, so first off, again, thank you to be here in the same space with the same time with everyone. Vanessa, thank you for moderating this. As you can see, being the first does mean being a pioneer, paving the way. So a lot of my experience has been by lived experience, echoing about the fear and being in those spaces. When I first started going into this role, first off, I did not grow up in a family when we were speaking about voting and political figures or any of that. So I'm atypical, and everything that I've learned in game has been just by experience. And I told the panelists here, like, I need to learn from all of you. So I'm a big lifelong learner. And I think that geared me to continue paving the way. So when I started, I had to reflect and think, where am I volunteering most of my time, that I'm not getting paid, and I'm happy, and my passion is there. And that was volunteering in different sectors, the food pantry, the Guardian Ad Litem program, doing a lot of those services. And then I realized representation matters. So I started going to my council meetings for a year before I decided to even consider that as an opportunity for me. When I did that, and I first started doing that, there were still glances of like, oh, who are you? How can we help you? What do you want? And my first thought was, no, I'm here to get to know you. I know you are my representatives, and I want to get to know all of you, including my mayor. So we started growing a relationship, but what got us together was thinking about what was common, and that was food. We talked about food, music, and different themes, so what we value, education. And then we started talking about culture. And then when I started bringing how proud I am to be from South Carolina, so my background is that I was born and raised here in South Carolina, so I always like to say that I'm a proud South Carolinian. And I'm also a proud Walhalla graduate. Walhalla is a very small rural community, 4,343 people, and the census is growing, right? So when I came into this role, it was all about learning, and it's all about sharing my experience and my culture with others who probably would never have asked if I didn't reach out. So one of my mentors, Dr. Bickford, would say is, one of your favorite words is always, and what you're doing is reaching out. And if we don't reach out, then we missed opportunities as well. So combining all of that together, learning, bringing the culture together, it brought trust first in our relationship. And at this point, it was 4 years ago with my representatives. And then it allowed more conversations to happen. But those conversations were happening, I started realizing there's still a lot of educational opportunities of those conversations. To be identified and to be told at the beginning when I meet someone doesn't know any of my background, and to share information or to share an expression, for example, to say, and I'm going to be very vulnerable here because this is the reality, and this is what I've lived through, and nobody can take that away from me because I've experienced it. It's my reality, and it's what I lived for. And when I had moments of educational opportunities of engagement, this is a quick example. I had one of the community members tell me, who is not from my background and doesn't have any understanding of our culture, said, I love tacos and I can only say hola. So and that's exactly what I did. I chuckled, I took it in, and I said, this is an educational opportunity. I need to get to know you more. We need to get to know each other more. So I took that as an opportunity because, again, culture comes in different ways. We have a Southern culture, and that was the first phrases that I heard, and since then we've collaborated, we've done network opportunities, and now we are allies, and we're doing things and from an equitable lens. So culture, conversations, and just building trust, I think, was what I was bringing in when I bring the heritage from my background.
I love the term educational opportunities, right? I mean, this is how we know this is how we know Sada is in politics, because sometimes it's awkward, right? I mean, like, is it not awkward? But it is. At the end of the day, like, beyond our feelings of awkwardness, like, you don't know that, or you do know that, it is educational opportunities, isn't it, right? Because we're all learning from each other. We come from such different backgrounds, different life experiences, and I found, I don't know, I think Sada is really brilliant at this, is that when you can find that commonality, and when we know each other and build relationship, all those little things are more forgivable and understandable, but building that relationship is so core, and you're really good at it. That's why you're the first Latina councilwoman in Oaxaca. So thank you for that insight. Judge Forsythe, so this question goes to you. So a little bit about your personal journey from early education and work at the White House as well, to your current role as judge. How do you bring your heritage and to your career choices and decisions?
So I want to thank the commission for putting this together. Where I was born in Newark, New Jersey, and it was, you know, the early 70s, everybody spoke either Portuguese or Spanish. Everybody was Hispanic. We didn't really think about it. It was just a cultural melting pot. And then I was raised in Washington, D.C., same thing. I was just telling our superintendent, you know, I went to Spanish-speaking mass. I didn't think anything of it. My first language was Spanish. My second was Portuguese, and I didn't even learn how to speak English until I started kindergarten. Head Start, actually, Head Start. But so I didn't really think of myself as anything other than American, but different, particularly when we moved to Washington, D.C., and I'm a first generation. My family is Spanish, Portuguese, Brazilian, and that means that they just go back and forth. Only when I moved to South Carolina 25 years ago did I realize that, wow, I might be a little different. So you heard my bio. Nowhere in there is there anything about my cultural heritage. When I was an attorney, when I started law school, I was the only Latina at the University of South Carolina. They didn't even know what to do with me at the School of Law. I didn't think about that either. I went out to practice law. I had clients that spoke Spanish, spoke Portuguese, and they found it fascinating because, you know, I volunteered at Our Lady of Mercy on Jones Island. I tried to help people learn how to speak English, how to navigate, because that's what my parents had to do. You know, we speak to this day Spanish and Portuguese in my parents' household. We don't see it any different. The one thing I see now as a judge was when I first endeavored to run and were elected by the General Assembly, there was this, don't tell them where you're from. And then when I started running and meeting different members of the General Assembly, the first question, it didn't matter what the ethnicity was, is what are you? And so then I was like, I'm going to have to embrace this. It's just going to have to be obvious. This is what I am. And I've been happy to be able to help people in the community. I'm happy when people come in to speak with the court to present their case and they're struggling with a language issue and I can just talk to them in their language. And the face of relief is just so obvious. I don't make a big deal out of it because, and this is one thing I picked up on everyone's panel, I'm just American. This is what America looks like. We're just American. But I'm happy to help other people who love this country and who want to be here. And I'm happy to embrace that part of me. I will say a funny story. When I was running for judge and during my commission hearing, it's a public proceeding, you know, the press is there, lawyers are there, and the members of the General Assembly who sit on the commission. One of the questions actually was, what is your heritage? And I didn't really know how to address it, so what I do is have that moment of joking about, you know, this cultural dynamic. And I said, so I'm Spanish, Portuguese, Brazilian. It makes the World Cup a really difficult time. Okay, so, you know, World Cup, soccer, okay, I get it. But I've just embraced it. I think there was a point in time where I've just tried to pretend that it didn't exist. That's just ridiculous. We are who we are. And at the end of the day, I'm just so grateful to be here. Gracias y obrigada.
You brought up something really interesting about, you know, this language wasn't here. So I'm an 80s kid, so I don't know who else can relate, but you know, when I started sort of my career in corporate America, this me being Latina was just like, I just didn't talk about it. I didn't leverage it. It was actually something, especially Colombian in the 80s, right? I'm sure your parents. So it just wasn't something we, you know, went out with, right? Even being bilingual was not, unless you were in kind of in more international environments. So it wasn't something to leverage. And so what a different time, because it seems like these generations, right, have language for this, have inclusion language, diversity language, equity language. And I think it makes it really interesting. And I can relate because I didn't have that, and I kept my head down so low. And it does feel freeing to be able to be oneself, come to the table authentically, and celebrate myself as a Latina, but then also just yourself as a judge and me as a businesswoman, just be. Right, like not always have to carry that in, not have to carry that Latinidad in. So this is actually a perfect segue, and I'd love for you to answer the next, and we'll keep going down. But as a judge, how do you perceive the current state of diversity and inclusion in the legal field, particularly for Hispanics, and what opportunities and challenges are those Hispanics facing within the legal system today?
So one of the things that some people may have read, well, first of all, I'm the first Latina judge in South Carolina elected by the General Assembly. I'm just going to say it. I also very much appreciate the fact that my culture, all of it, is included in this diaspora. That is very meaningful to me. There aren't, the language access issue is a huge issue, and it has posed enormous challenges for judges throughout the state. We continue to struggle to find qualified bilingual interpreters, and it has denied access to the Spanish-speaking community, the Brazilian, Portuguese-speaking community. It has been such a challenge. It's something I've been working on since I was elected to the bench. I continue to push this issue, and I think part of the problem is it's hard to understand that all of these people need access to the courts. Why would they need access to the courts? I mean, they have speeding tickets. They have custody cases. They get married. They get divorced. They have children who, you know, in the family court get arrested. They need to have access. And I don't know if you all grew up like this, but I was the one who was the interpreter for my parents a lot of times. That's just a first generation thing that you have to do, you know? And it's unfair to try to have people from the community come in and serve as an interpreter. It's an art. It's very important. Another thing is just bringing the consular generals into the equation, especially in what we do. We need to know that there's a presence there. And I think that's our big challenge. One of the things where I see a tremendous amount of growth is young Hispanic law students, would-be law students, and lawyers. I've been so lucky. One of the things we do is travel the state because we hold court in every county. So a state court judge can travel to the 46 counties and hold court. And there are so many young Hispanic attorneys now. And a lot of them are so great because they make it a point to come to the courthouse and come and say hello, which just makes my day. I didn't have that when I started here, and I'm so grateful to see it. It's just a cultural shift in South Carolina, which I think everybody embraces. And I have to say that it doesn't matter whether you're in the upstate or the low country, there is an embracing of this big culture that has so many different types of music, food, language differences. And it does start with a conversation. And I've had those even on the bench with other judges who may start the conversation off by, do your people eat tacos? But that is the learning moment.
Thank you so much. Yeah, language access. It really does come to that in so many spaces, whether you're in education or the legal field or the healthcare field. It is, I think, that not for us, but the giant elephant in the room, I think, in so many industries and spaces in South Carolina. So we continue to push and we continue to hope for more advances in that space. Sarai, if you can share a little bit about your present space and as a councilwoman and advocate, what is the current state of Hispanic representation advocacy in South Carolina? What changes or improvements have you been a part of, or what can you highlight that you'd like to see?
So when in 2020, when I was elected, I learned a little bit of history about my form of council government that we have. So in 1990, the year that I was born, so I'm a 90s child, first generation, I was introduced. Today, I'm good friends with her, but she was the first Black council lady for the city of Walhalla. So when we talk about minority, we talk about also representation that you can have access to people that perhaps they live around your neighborhoods that you can talk to and communicate. So when I learned she was the first person in 1990, I was like, okay, and she served for 2 years. And after that, she stepped down and she continued being involved in voting registration. And she said it was just not for me, but I still want to be involved to get engaged with people in the community. And then you fast forward years, several years later, and then I'm very honored to be known as the Hispanic Latino councilwoman, but I go back to what I was hearing you say about this love for this country. And, you know, this is my country, this is our country. And that's how I'm very patriotic in that way. And it seems to be sometimes a little sting to some people when I become very patriotic, but that's okay because that's what we're gonna learn from each other. So in my past 4 years of being able to be part of one of 7 members of a body of government, we had the opportunity to start looking at nominations for the next judge for our city. So the first thing I started doing was obviously hearing my colleagues, and the first thing they started doing was thinking about their former colleagues that they met. You know, it's the same way when we talk about knowing who you know and what spaces you've met them. So the first thing I thought was, where are some of my Hispanic Latino judges that I can consider to this nomination? I've had this opportunity to bring in a nomination into the floor. I immediately thought of one of the young professionals, and she is a lawyer, but she's working in Columbia. And I called her up, and Miss Diaz, are you back in town? I was like, no, I live in Colombia now. And I was like, okay. Then I called the commission. I said, do we have a directory of potential individuals that could be considered for this, or lawyers? You know, you don't have to be a lawyer. I'm learning so much about that too. And I was like, okay. I did not find one yet in my community. And I was like, okay, so we have more work to do. So my experience been having access. So serving in that role in council, I've been learning on what it means to be part of a body of government, but also tapping into networks, connections. And I see right now in the audience some of my promotoras de salud here, community health workers. And those individuals have been also my inspiration to continue going. Because representation matters, but also access and information sharing. So in my experience so far, it has been just sitting at the table and having those conversations where if I was on the other end of the table, perhaps those conversations would not be as strong. And I think that matters in all levels, city, county, and state. And if you go to national, well, that's another area that I think they need some more support as well. So I think overall it's just continue to have access, sharing, and resource sharing as well.
Great, thank you. I think of two things with both of the insights that you shared. There's The New Majority, it's a podcast. I listened to it through LinkedIn, but look it up. There's a scholar that interestingly shared that, you know, as we become this new majority, Latinos and Hispanics, the word and the term Latino and Hispanic is actually going to be useless, right? The new American is Latino, Hispanic. So that sounds, wow, a little bit jarring, like really, but that's the actual reality. And sometimes I think in these spaces where folks aren't as, where spaces aren't as diverse, that might seem a little shocking, but when you leave, you feel it more, right? And so you standing in your space and saying, yeah, I'm a proud South Carolinian, I'm a proud American, might feel jarring at first, but that's that educational opportunity because that's where we're going, right? And the second thought, I don't want to take too much space as a moderator, but you also bring up such a great point as being the first Latina councilwoman. That's not enough, right? It's not enough to be the first in the room. We need folks to follow. We need that support system because once somebody has the opportunity or a judge has the opportunity to get more of us in the room, if there isn't a pool, to support, we can't do our jobs, right, in our spaces. So thank you for that insight. Melanie. Give this thought. The system usually works well. But, all right, so as an advocate, what is the current state of Hispanic representation and experiences of young Hispanic professionals in their respective fields? And what do you think are the opportunities that you see for new first-gen young professionals?
Well, I'd like to say that even though the community is growing in Charleston, I don't see people like what Dr. Acosta was speaking about, like people on school boards, people on different boards. I think it's truly bringing yourself to the table, echoing Ms. Sarai here, that your conversation, like your voice matters. And so I've been able to wiggle into those spaces and be like, look, I'm Latina, like I'm from Colombia, I'm from El Salvador, let's talk about this. This is what my community needs. I was given the opportunity to be a board member for an arts center, and we actually got to collab with Northern Media, and it's truly just seeing Hispanic Heritage Month be celebrated in that way was such an important thing for me. And I think that being a young professional, it's truly finding that pool, like what Ms. Vanessa said here. My little brother, I always look at him and I'm like, Brendan, if you've got friends, let them know that there are resources out there, that, your community is here to help you. And that's why I try to mentor him. And I'm like, here, with my knowledge, try to pass it down and see if those students can come in and talk to their counselors. If they need that support, we can get that support. So I truly think it's about conversation. But I've also realized that with opportunities and challenges, it's truly the duality of man. You need some sort of challenge to get that opportunity. I realized that the lack of diversity in Congress and at the White House, it's been an opportunity for me to get into those spaces. So I truly think it's about, following and finding those pools, like what Ms. Vanessa said. I truly agree with that. Yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank you for all your work, Melanie. And to be a board member at your age, my first board seat was like 2 years ago, 41. So amazing, I love it. I love to hear it.
Good thing you're still young.
Yeah, incredible. Love want more of it. So Chief Deputy, we're going to close up in about 6 minutes, but if you can just share with us a little bit about let me give you a chance to answer both questions. What's the current state of diversity and inclusion within law enforcement in South Carolina, in your opinion? And in terms of the future, what can we do to increase representation in that field? And then you can pass it back over to Melanie. Thank you.
So to answer your first question, what is the current state of inclusion and diversity in law enforcement? I will tell you it is non-existent. That's the sad state that we are in. I think that if you look across the state, we have 37 different counties, and in all of those, I think you would be hard pressed to find any Hispanic officers. Unfortunately, fortunately for us here in the Midlands, it is not that. We have the largest agency in the state of South Carolina, and we also have the largest pool of Hispanic officers in South Carolina. So I am proud to say that I work for an agency that has 28 bilingual officers, and that is the most that anywhere in the state has. So the opportunities for advancement here in the Midlands exist. But again, it comes down to having that leadership that gives people the opportunity to rise, based on the merit, and not necessarily because of who they know or where they come from. So I think the field itself has a lot of work to do. Some of the challenges really is educating the community, educating our community, educating the Hispanic community about what law enforcement is and does. We face a huge challenge with getting them to come forward and trust law enforcement. And a lot of that has to do with our heritage, right? A lot of that has to do with what they learned in their own countries and what law enforcement, the existence of law enforcement looks like there. And for them to come to realize that here in America, it's different. And here in America, we're here to help, we're here to serve. And that's been the greatest challenge as far as being a Hispanic in law enforcement, is trying to get them to understand, like, I'm not a traitor, like, I'm here to help you, but trying to get them to understand and get that trust, that's probably been one of the biggest challenges. But opportunities exist for everybody, so I say it just requires somebody to take advantage of it.
And that comes into play, right, if you're helping in recruitment efforts, understanding that cultural competence, right, that people come from a frame of reference of law enforcement looks a little bit different in Mexico, right?
And what trust looks a little bit different. And what they do, and trying to combat that challenge of educating them to say, like, we're not corrupt. I hate to use that word, but we are not. Like, I'm not asking you to join something that is not legit. It is totally different here than it is in some of those countries.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Just a few final words on advice to young professionals based on what you've experienced, and maybe some folks that have young professionals in their family or lives that they can pass down.
Alrighty, I've got 3 things. The first one is remember your why. Excuse me. Continuously just remember why you're doing the things you're doing, why you're advocating, why you're just continuously trying to get those efforts in. The second one is my high school quote was, if you want to be successful, prepare to be doubted and tested. I've been tested and doubted constantly throughout my short professional career, but trust once you continue working through those efforts. And lastly, my Citadel ring says, Ponte las pilas engraved inside, which means put your batteries on. I always take off my ring and I realize, okay, my parents have told me this throughout my entire childhood, adulthood, and I always revert back to that saying, just to keep going and to just ponte las pilas. Yeah, those are my advice.
Great, thank you. Yes, ponte las pilas. I've heard that too. I should get a tattoo. Saraí, the future of Hispanic representation in politics. Give us some magic advice here.
So, Ponte las Pilas is something I heard just yesterday, actually. I was at the Tri-County Technical College Community Report reception, and Dr. Galen DeHay, who's the president there, shared with us amazing numbers. And I'm going to talk two things that I value, and I think that goes along with where my advocacy efforts goes as well. So I value familia, so family. Taking care of your household is really important, but family, and then education along that segue. So I want to share this with you, and I think it's fair to say that by the end of December, I'll be graduating with my political science by participating in my local government. So I'm putting that as an educational on my resume. But I want to share this because it's important. I collaborate. So for those who know me, and for those who know me very well, I only work in teams, and I thrive in teamwork. And when I thrive in teamwork, I thrive with collaboration and making sure that there is also representation when it comes down, because we might be a higher level of academic, but we need to make sure we're listening at the grassroots as well, at the community. So I wanted to share this. I recently collaborated with a project with Carolina Family Engagement Centers called CFEC, and they have shared with me that over the past 40 years, there's research that's demonstrating that family engagement improves school outcome across socioeconomic backgrounds and racial and ethnic backgrounds as well. This is mean to say that educators, teachers, can also think creatively outside the box to meet the families where they are. I did 3 months of substituting teaching in public education, so I want to roll out the red carpet every time I see a teacher and saying that I'm teaching students. So I want to see teachers from different backgrounds serving in those areas. So education for me is always going to be an area of advocacy that I'm going to be focused on. And the last part where I heard Ponte las Pilas, which means literally, it's the worst translation though, right? It's like out of context, put your batteries on. But Échate las pilas, Ponte las Pilas was from a story from Mr. Luis Hernandez. He was a successful impact story that Tri-County shared about his story. And Tri-County Technical College reported that within the last year, which is 2022-2023, they reported the highest Hispanic student enrollment in history of the college, and it's been existing for 60 plus years. They've been going on their 4th president right now, so I work closely with Dr. Galen DeHay on that. From summer 2021 until 2022, they experienced a record of 40% increase. That means 327 students, and it's Hispanic student enrollment. The trend continues with reports showing a 17% Hispanic enrollment increase for the spring of 2023 semester. And this continues to happen throughout the whole pipeline. So if we can get all the community colleges, all 16 of them, and I think he's leading the way, I would continue to commend all those members out in the community that are doing the work as well. So happy for that.
That's incredible. So exciting for our youth, right? Judge, would you close us off with just a few final thoughts on Hispanic career strategies and into the field that you're in?
Well, I think I would do Yvonne a huge disservice if I didn't mention the fact that this population continues to grow, but continues to change. And one of the things that we're seeing is while we've got a Spanish-speaking population sort of entrenched now in South Carolina in the last 20 years, there's this Portuguese population, Portuguese-speaking population that is growing. And they are from Brazil, and they are coming here, and they have similar characteristics, and then there's some that are different. And to know and be aware that they are part of the community, that they are coming. I was actually in Portugal this summer and had met, probably in my travels there in 5 days, had met 20 to 25 different Brazilian young people who are now traveling to Portugal to live. And I thought, oh, the irony that my family had been going back and forth, escaping whatever dictator was in power in whatever country, because that's what Latin America is. We always have dictators that take over, or political instability of some sort. And so that's the new trend that we're going to see in South Carolina, that comes with a whole different set of challenges. One thing I haven't seen yet is a Brazilian consul general, I'm waiting for the minute where that starts to happen. And I'm also hoping that we have consul generals for our government. But I think that the trend is wonderful, it's inclusive, and it's just a huge body of people who have so much to give to our American story. And just kind of taking in what the chief said, I mean, this is what makes America the most amazing country on earth, is we have our challenges, we really do. But this, bringing people together, is who we are. And as long as we keep focusing on that, we should be proud to have this flag and our South Carolina flag, because we're also changing South Carolina in so many great ways. And, you know, I mean, this commission has just been amazing. Thank you so much.
That was incredible.
Well, thank you to our panel. And I'm going to run with Alex in this, because when we thought about this about 6 months ago, we knew that we could use invite our friends, our colleagues to be here. And people sometimes ask me how hard it was. It wasn't that hard, because we make those connections. So once again, if you're in this room, make sure that you may get to meet somebody else. We collected all your information outside. We'll be sending you an email with everybody's place where they work, their position, and their email. Please reach out. Or like I tell everybody, you don't know somebody, just call me, and I get in touch with them. Also, before we present our keynote speakers, when it comes to Latinos in South Carolina, we are all pioneers. Every single thing we do has the potential to help our community. You will feel like that. You'll feel alone. You'll feel like you're the only one doing it. You'll feel the only one trying. You get people from nationwide organizations to come and tell you, why don't you do this? Why don't you get together with your civil rights Latino organizations? Why don't you get together with your economic development Latino organizations? Because we don't have them. What we have is this army of people. What we have is all these amazing community workers. Shout out, I'm a feminist, but also I understand that when I got to the community, 95% of the people doing the work are women. And this panel happened very, very organically. Next thing we knew, they were all women. And they are doing the work, and we need to support. And now we'll bring Alex, that's going to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Frank Rodriguez. Thank you to the panel.
It's our honor to have him here as our keynote speaker. He spent a significant part of his life to education and community advocacy. So Dr. Rodriguez served the South Florida educational community for 26 years in a variety of positions prior to starting his position as Superintendent of Beaufort County School District. At the Florida Department of Education, he served as the secondary social studies teacher and program coordinator. He was also an elementary and secondary school principal, an assistant superintendent for 6 district departments, and an area and regional superintendent in the Palm Beach County Schools. As Iman mentioned earlier, we chose our panelists and speakers very deliberately. We've seen that growth in population of the Hispanic student population of 6.9% within the last year. So it's just our honor to highlight I believe the only Hispanic superintendent in the state, Dr. Frank Rodriguez. So if we could please welcome.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? All right. Buenos días. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to share a little bit with you about my story and about my journey. I think as you hear the story and the journey, I think what you'll hear is 4 things that I think as I reflect on it come to mind. One is about core family values. One is about mentorship. One is about hard work. And I think the current phase that I'm really in now is in mentorship again, but it's different. And so I can't tell you my story without starting with my family. See, for me, my family came from Cuba in 1960. When Castro was first taking over in Cuba, my family left Cuba, and they came to the United States, and they settled in Miami Beach in Florida. And they were in Miami Beach for about a year and then moved over to Miami, right over the bridge. But my family in Cuba had to leave everything behind. It's not an uncommon story for many Hispanic and Latino families, and had to leave everything behind and come to the United States and start over from scratch. But, you know, you mentioned it earlier, Judge, and one thing about this great country is opportunity, right? And my grandfather seized on opportunity, and he relied very heavily on his education. And so his education was so important to him that when my brother and I were about this tall, running around the house, and once we got into school, my grandfather used to tell us all the time. Either he would tell us every couple of days or so, but he would say, education is the one thing nobody can ever take away from you. It is the one thing nobody can ever take away from you. You have to do your part. You have to work hard when you're in school. And you have to do your part, because that's the key to your future, and it's the one thing nobody can ever take from you. And if I heard it once, I heard it a million times. Sometimes it felt like every day, right? And I listened, right? But I don't know that I really knew the meaning of that until later in life, really into what he was talking about until later in life. But he had a significant impact on my life, as my grandmother did. You see, my mother passed away when I was in first grade. And my dad, through his work, traveled quite a bit. And so we all lived on the same block. And so I spent a lot of time in my grandmother's house on my mother's side with my grandmother and my grandfather. And it was really through that experience and my grandfather on a regular basis pushing education that I think it made a tremendous impact in my life. And so, you know, I grew up in Miami, in South Florida, went to high school there. I tell everybody that I was a good student in school. Everybody assumes because you're superintendent that you are a great student. I was a good student, right? But I had to work really hard at it. I had to work really hard at it. We spoke Spanish at home first, right? And so I learned Spanish first, right? And then, you know, learned English along the way, right? But I had to work really hard at school. I was not the valedictorian, but I married the valedictorian. So I should get some points for that, right? And I met my wife in high school, and we've been together ever since. We've got 2 boys. One just started college. The other one is in 9th grade in high school. And I'm very proud of them, both really great kids, and compassionate, caring, loving kids. And you know, the both of them are in the Boy Scouts, and I tell everybody that, you know, as a dad of a child who's in the Boy Scouts, you know, just pushing them to get their merit badges and do all the things they got to do, you know, when we got to South Carolina, my oldest was a Life Scout, and my youngest was just starting. My youngest is now a Life Scout. The next rank is Eagle. That's the last one. So I used to tell everybody then, you know, I'm doing everything I can, right, to push them to get there, but I got to do it before the fumes get them, right? The car fumes and the perfumes, right? And I'm proud to tell you that my oldest got his Eagle Scout, and I'm proud to tell you my youngest is a Life Scout now, and he's got a few years to get that done, but I know I'm against the clock with the car fumes and perfumes on the youngest, so I'm working on that. 2 great kids. you know, when I graduated high school, I started coaching soccer. I love soccer. I played it my whole life. And I started coaching soccer. And it was through that experience, right, that I knew I wanted to become a teacher, that I knew I wanted to be an educator. Because I absolutely loved the feeling that I had when I would teach kids something on the practice field. And they would get out on the field in a game and then execute on it and have some success with something that I imparted, something that I gave them, right, something that I had taught them. And there's an inexplicable joy about that, that I just knew I wanted that feeling forever. I just had to figure out what I was going to teach. And so I loved history, and so I went off to school to prepare to be a social studies teacher. And I came back, and I started teaching. And in my first year teaching, near the end of the year, the assistant principal at the school was Hispanic, also was Latina. And I'm in the mail room, and I'm getting my mail, and she taps me on the shoulder, and she says, hey, can I see you in my office? And I'm thinking, well, what did I do, right? You know? So I go in, and I sit down with her, and we're talking, and she says, you know, you have a great way with people. You have a good way with parents. You connect with kids really well. You know, you should think about down the road going to school and getting into administration, because I think you might enjoy it and you'll be really good at it. And so it takes someone sometimes to just tap you in the shoulder to see something in you that maybe you weren't looking for or hadn't seen. And in my case, Myra, that assistant principal, is a person who tapped me on the shoulder and said, I see something in you that you can develop if you want to go that route. And she mentored me, right? And so I went to work. I taught for a few years. Then I started working on my master's degree. And I went to work for the Florida Department of Education, there locally in Palm Beach County, doing professional development for four counties in South Florida. And what happened was, about 3 years later, I was at church, and who do I run across? I run across Myra again. And Myra says, hey, I was just named principal of a school that's projected to be an F-rated school. And I would love it if you would come to work with me as an assistant principal and help me turn the school around. And so I'm thinking, well, I'm in church, this has to be a sign, right? So I said yes, right? And I went to work with Myra. And we did a lot of great work over years there, and we moved that school's performance from an F to a B, right? And I learned so much about transformation work and transformation in schools through that experience, right? But what I also got a chance to do at that school, because that school was about 80% Hispanic students. And what I also learned through that was what my grandfather was really telling me, right? That education is the one thing nobody can take away from you. Because we were serving children from lots of different countries there at that school. And what we saw was that depending upon where they came from, their formal education background was different. Their experience was different, right? And that set them up to have a little bit of an advantage over others when they landed here, right? And so we learned a lot about that experience, but we also learned that to shift school performance, you needed to focus on culture, you needed to focus on putting systems in place, and you needed to focus on high quality instruction. And so I spent 8 years at the school, and then the superintendent came by and said, you're going to be a principal next year at an elementary school. Now, all of my experience has been in high school, and I'm going into an elementary school. I don't think I'd been in one since I had attended, right? And so through that experience, right, I I landed, I had a great team around me. I was serving a community in the elementary school that was about 90% Hispanic, right? My assistant principal was also Hispanic, right? I had instructional coaches and a team around me that knew elementary really well, right? And together we worked hard. I brought some ideas from the high school level, from the secondary level. We connected, and somebody mentioned collaboration, right? We spent a lot of time collaborating, right? And through that experience, we moved student performance there to the highest that school history had in all of the accountability cells that the state assessment provided. And so through that experience, it just reinforced what I had learned about culture, systems, and instruction, right? And then the next year, the superintendent came back by at the end of the year and he said, we're going to move you to a high school. I want you to do the same work there, right? And so this was a high school. I was there for 2 years. We moved academics there as well, similar results. And then he said, I'm going to make you a director of transformation schools. And so through the experience in transformation schools, he said, we've got 12 schools that are projected to be an F-rated school, right? It's 193,000 students in Palm Beach County, 193 schools. So it was a big place. And our work, and he said, you can be area director of transformation. I'm not having any Fs, okay? Get my marching orders, right? So I did what I learned back at Forest Hill working with Myra, which was culture, systems, and instruction. And we put that mechanism in place at the schools. We worked hard, and at the end of the year, right, out of 12 schools, we had 1 B, 10 Cs, and 1 D, right? None of them were Fs. Work wasn't done. We had a lot of work to continue there. But then he moved me as an assistant superintendent with district departments. And so after that, I wanted the experience because I felt like I wanted to be a superintendent of a school district. And so I wanted the experience of running regions and areas of, my region was 58 schools, 58,000 students. And so it's just a subdivision of the overall district, right? And so we did, my team and I, really proud of the work that we did in the central region in Palm Beach County. We moved the needle academically for all the students we served. It was the area with the highest Latino population. Stressed attendance, the importance and significance of attendance. And through that experience, regardless of what position I held along that journey, right? What has always driven me to do my work is to make sure that the students that I'm blessed to serve each and every day get that one thing nobody can ever take away from them. And that's a great education, right? It's the key to their future. And so when I landed in Beaufort County as superintendent in July of 2019, that's what my work has been all about. And it's been about making sure that all the students I'm blessed to serve receive a great education, because that is the one thing nobody can ever take away from them. So my journey has been about core family values, the significance and importance of education in your life and in your future. It's been about mentorship. It's been about somebody seeing something in me, mentoring and coaching me along the way. And it's been about hard work to make a difference in the lives of the children I can serve, right? And in this next phase that I kind of feel like I'm in right now, it is about mentoring. But it's about me mentoring others now, because I've got 10, 15 years of professional career, so to speak, right? And so as I do that, I want 10 to 15 years of mentoring others to get them ready to reach their dreams and reach their highest potentials, like some people did for me along the way. And so, so that's why I kind of select those themes, because I sort of see that as I reflect in my own practice right now. But I can't thank you all enough for the opportunity to share my story with you, to share my leadership journey with you and my educational journey. And if I can ever do anything, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Frank Rodriguez. What a great event we've had today. I'd like to thank our panelists once more, and also our lovely moderator, Vanessa, for helping us have a nice discussion today. I'd like to thank Dr. Frank Rodriguez for sharing his journey and, being a source of inspiration and, kind of a guiding light to how we can probably help advance our careers in several aspects, not only for people already in their career, but for young professionals like Melanie and others. So just to reiterate, we want to thank you all for coming again. We have some time for networking after I end here. So please take advantage of this opportunity where we brought together a lot of community leaders from the state to our capital, Columbia, and just take advantage to meet one another and don't scurry off. And yeah, thank you all for coming once again.